Swadika, good morning and welcome to Newsline. I'm Cholapansa Narula. Thank you very much for joining us. It's Wednesday, April 27, 2016. Here are the news. In today's first story, Thailand moves forward. Prime Minister General Prayut Chan-o-cha has instructed the cabinet to expedite the government's work in order to avoid leaving the next government with an excessive burden. The Premier said that there must be more clarity in the government's implementation of its 2016 to 2017 roadmap and the National Economic Social Development Master Plans. He also stressed that the government needed to urgently heed the guidance of the National Reform Steering Assembly and the National Council for Peace and Order. The government was pushing for progress in its agricultural policy, water management, education, infrastructure, as well as logistics. The Prime Minister also disclosed that the government should restructure the Ministry of Information and Communication Technology as part of its digital economy initiative. Regarding Thailand's solutions to the problem of illegal fishing, General Prayut said there would be a meeting in May on the matter. He suggested that the government should emphasize the fact that Thailand was doing the utmost in tackling the problem. He admitted that some fishing entrepreneurs might be affected by the government's efforts against illegal fishing. The Prime Minister also congratulated rubber farmers after rubber prices increased to 60 to 62 baht per kilogram. To support the rubber industry, the Prime Minister said the Ministry of Industry would cooperate with China in manufacturing products using almost 200,000 tons of Thai rubber. He added that there were new investors from China and Malaysia who expressed interest in buying rubber from Thailand. The Deputy Prime Minister has affirmed that the Election Commission has the authority to propose draft legislation on the public referendum without seeking cabinet review. Deputy Prime Minister Wisanu Kurangam has remarked on the EC drafting 3 legislative proposals on the public referendum, saying he has yet to see the draft and cannot give a direct opinion on them. He nonetheless assured that the EC has the authority to create such drafts and is not required to forward them to the cabinet for review. He affirmed that it is the EC's duty to ensure the public is prepared for the referendum and that it is organized without incident. The Deputy Premier noted, however, that the EC must be mindful of the National Council for Peace and Order's regulations when drafting any legislation. The construction of the Prachop Khiri Khan Chumpon segment of the dual-track railway project has received cabinet approval, while concession bidding is expected to be held from May to August. Following the cabinet meeting, Transport Minister Akhom Termpithiyaphaisit made known that the green light was granted to the ministry's double-track railway project on the section between Prachop Khiri Khan and Chumpon provinces. Deputy Governor of the State Railway of Thailand, Kamon Tangkit Charoenchai, explained that the draft terms of reference or TOR contract for the new section will be unveiled on the State Railway's website in order to gather feedback for 5 to 7 days. Unless anyone rejects the draft, the SRT will begin to accept bids around late of May. The bidding will be conducted in the form of e-auction, and the winning bidder and the final price of the project are likely to be concluded in early August. The Prachop Khiri Khan Chumpon section stretches 167 kilometers and is part of the second phase of the dual-track railway project. 3 more sections are expected to be considered by the cabinet over the next couple of weeks, and they consist of Map Kabao Jirasak section, that is junction, Lopburi Pak Nam Po, and Nakhon Pathom Hua Hin. Thailand is heading towards an economy driven by science, technology and innovation. An interesting event is set to take place tomorrow. That is Startup Thailand 2016, which is expected to bring opportunities for the business sector. Joining us now is the Minister of Science and Technology, Dr. Pichet Durongkaweerod. Swadika, Minister.
Good morning, Kun Chonpansa.
Thank you very much for joining us. Before we take a look at the event, let's get to know more about this business segment, startups. What is the overall situation and trend of startup businesses in Thailand?
The trend is very good. I have been exposed to many startups lately, and I see good potentials. Basically, it's a government intention to make it a startup year this year, driving all mechanisms as well as trying to support with the proper ecosystem for the country. So basically, we are talking about expanding the base of startups in Thailand, encourage more venture capitalists to get involved in this high-risk, high-return startup business, as well as co-creating environments such as startup districts throughout the country.
I see. Recently, the government has given great importance towards driving the economy through STI, science, technology, innovation. What is the government's progress and what kind of growth can the country achieve through this new economic platform?
The government recognized that in stepping up our efforts to get Thailand out of the middle income trap, apart from many other good policies, we also need to strive toward a more innovation-oriented economy. In doing so, we need to get the private sector up and running, especially through innovating as well as putting more funds into research development. In this regard, the government has been providing a number of incentives to the private sector. For example, the Board of Investment is now providing investment privilege, a maximum one, for those who invest in innovation to get the maximum benefits. For those who do not apply for the Board of Investment, for example, they also can enjoy a 300% tax deduction from the expenditures on their research investments. For example, in terms of human resource, we are also driving towards making sure that our capable researchers, engineers, contributing tremendously to the research efforts, not only in the public universities and research institutes, but also contribute toward improvement of productivity of the small and medium enterprises, as well as the innovation of the large enterprises, both domestic and international enterprises, for which we have a great program such as talent mobility in providing access for the private sector to look for capable researchers that fit into their programs of innovation, for instance.
I see. Now, about Startup Thailand 2016, it's the first ever event designed and dedicated for startup businesses in Thailand. Tell us about the objectives and how will it help bring opportunities for startup businesses?
This will be the biggest event for startup, probably the first ever that Thailand has embarked upon. Starting from tomorrow and run for 4 straight days, we are going to have a lot of interesting activities within the event, which will be held at the Sirikit Convention Center. In the program, it will kick off by the vision that will be provided by the Prime Minister on Startup Thailand, which we will see many of new policy instruments in order to support, promote, as well as providing a good ecosystem for startup development in Thailand. We hope that in the near future we'll be able to also host startups from our ASEAN member countries, ASEAN friends also. We also have a number of countries participating in this event. More than 10 countries will join us, not only on stage to tell us about their stories and experiences, but also to exhibit some of their startups as well as their ecosystem in their indigenous environment also. More importantly, we will also host more than 150 Thai standing startups in this exhibition. and this will contribute to the knowledge of the public on the development of startups in Thailand. Not only the digital-based startup, but we will also have a lot of startups with various useful applications. For example, startups in medical area, startup in agriculture area, startup in finance area, as well as startup in education area, for instance. So it will be very useful for those who would like to learn more about startups, and for those startups to come join us, whether they are early stage startup or they are startups that have already been supported by venture capitals, for which in this event we'll see a lot of venture capitals, banks, financial institutions who would also be interested to look for good opportunities of various startups that I have mentioned before.
I see. So startup businesses, people who are looking to seek funding can actually go access funding at the event. Is that correct, Minister?
Yes, we will also have a real event on the pitching of selected startups, for which many venture capital will be able to see the quality of startups in Thailand. This will happen not only in this event, but the government is also planning many other events throughout the year in order to make sure that the startups will have wide open opportunities. And not only in the metropolitan area, we will also look for cooperation in the regional provinces in order to provide ecosystems such as startup districts, at least in major cities throughout Thailand. And we are very hopeful, and we are quite certain that startup movement in Thailand will kick off starting from tomorrow.
The Prime Minister, I believe, will be giving his directions in a speech and moving the economy forward. Now, apart from that, South Korea's Science Minister will be speaking as well. So please kindly tell us about Thailand's cooperation with South Korea in creating a creative economy with startup development.
Well, we recognize the fact that Korea has been quite advanced in many areas, especially in creative economy. We have a large delegation a few months ago visiting Korea, led by our Deputy Prime Minister, Dr. Somkit Chattopadhyay. I was also a member of that delegation, and we have discussed and looked for opportunities for cooperation with the Korean government. And we have also visited many of their facilities, including their creative areas and innovative areas. And we have come to agreement initially that Thailand and Korea will work together in this creative environment. And that's why the Minister of Science, ICT, and Creative Planning accept my invitation to visit Thailand and join us in this Startup Thailand 2016 event. And moreover, during his trip, his 2-day trip, we will also bring him to see our science park facilities, our newly developed Food Innopolis project, for which there will be an MOU signed between our agency and Innopolis Foundation of Korea.
Well, Dr. Pichai, thank you very much for joining us this morning. We really appreciate you talking to us and sharing with us the information today.
You're welcome. Hope to see you from tomorrow on at Queen Sirikit National Convention Center.
The fair starts tomorrow, the 28th of April, and running until the 1st of May. Once again, Startup Thailand 2016 at the Queen Sirikit National Convention Center. Moving on to our next story. Buriram province is reported to be facing its worst drought crisis in 20 years. But the village of Ban Kok Pluang has not felt the impact as much as other villages, and they say it's because of their resource management system. Kun Panot Si Sinsap reports.
Ban Kok Pluang village in the Nong Bot sub-district of Buriram province is a small village of roughly 500 people. And just like other villages in the province, it has been several months now that they have not received any rainfall. However, despite no rain, their accumulated stored water is still at 70% of capacity, and farmers are still able to plant with fruitful outcomes. Antamani Kunchum, villager at Ban Kok Pluang, took us to see her plantations.
This is my farm. I grew many things like guava, chilies, eggplants, bananas, whatever can be eaten, I'll just grow that. Yes, there's no rain and it's dry, but we have reservoirs. The water level went down a bit, but I'm sure once the rain comes, it'll be filled again.
Aunt Minnie also told NPT World that the people here grow plants according to the weather, and as it is the dry season, all plants being grown do not require much water. There are numerous small and big ponds across the village, so residents have easy access to water. The success seen now is a result of several years' work, headed by village chief Saman Rotong, who told us that much work had to be done as the village was very sensitive to weather.
We used to face problems of flooding and severe drought, but we noticed that when it rains, the water will all flow into the canals and drift away. So me and my team thought of ways to retain that water to alleviate drought. We get together and each of us decided to donate some of our land, and villagers also donated theirs to dig up reservoirs.
Each of us know our areas. Before the digging of the reservoir, we would inspect the land. We were lucky to have people from the Ministry of Science and Technology to come and teach us how to identify potential areas to dig up ponds and reservoirs.
Now we have 111 ponds, 50 bigger-sized ponds, and 61 gambling systems. It's amazing to know that when you have many ponds close by, water will seep underground and go to another pond to balance the level.
The ecosystem in the village has been thoughtfully cared for, starting from the decisions of what plants and fruit to grow, where to store water, to even village planning, as well as where walkways are even sloped to create a passage for the water when time of flooding. So water will be diverged to be kept in the main reservoir. The success has brought the people of Ban Kok Phuong village closer together, as much collaboration and sharing of resources are needed to make the system work. Today, the village no longer faces problem of severe drought, nor worried when storms come. Panasi Sinsap, NPT World, Buriram.
And that's it for Thailand Moves Forward. Up next, we have ASEAN News. Mukdahan province expands economic cooperation with China city of Chongzhou. But first, here's a look at the exchange rates and also commodity prices. Stay with us.
On behalf of the Thai Red Cross Society, I'd like to congratulate the Public Relations Department of the PRD on the 83rd anniversary of its foundation. I'd like to thank the Public Relations Department for always extending full cooperation to the Thai Red Cross Society in all its activities.
If the earth is your home, the ocean is theirs as well. Working together, the government and private sector can solve all the issues currently facing the Thai fishing industry. from legitimizing fishing operations to helping out our fellow fishermen and collaborating with international parties.
ตอนนี้ถึงเวลาแล้วนะครับที่เราจะต้องมาร่วมมือกันทำให้มันถูกต้องมันก็ต้องปรับตัวในช่วงแรกแต่ในระยะยาวมันก็คุ้มค่า
ถ้าไม่มีอาชีพนี้เราก็ไม่รู้จะทำอะไรกันแล้วผมก็พร้อมครับที่จะเป็นส่วนหนึ่งในการแก้ปัญหา
In celebration of its 83rd anniversary, the Government Public Relations Department has vowed to develop its role as a reliable and trustworthy organization that provides the most accurate, up-to-date, and useful information to the people of Thailand and the international community.
Welcome back. You're watching Newsline. Mukdahan Province and China's Chongzhou City are collaborating in supporting Thai and Chinese investors to invest in Mukdahan's Special Economic Zone project. Mukdahan Governor Sarasit Ritsornkrai and the Deputy Mayor of Chongzhou co-chaired a meeting on the extension of their cooperation in terms of trade, investment, tourism and education. The cooperation is the result of an MOU signed in 2011 on the establishment of sister city relationship between Mukdahan and Chongzhou. According to the MOU, the two cities will exchange knowledge and experience as well as foster networking between businesses in Mukdahan and Chongzhou. The Mukdahan governor said that the economic trade and industrial cooperation between Thailand and China would play an important role in spurring investment in the Mukdahan Special Economic Zone. The Armenian-backed breakaway region of Nagorno-Karabakh said 2 of its soldiers were killed by gunfire from Azerbaijan as tensions simmered weeks after an eruption of clashes. Both sides said that they exchanged fire overnight and blamed each other for starting the fighting. A Moscow-brokered ceasefire halted 4 days of violence in the South Caucasus region on April 5th, but sporadic shooting is still frequent at night. Locals living in the Terta district, which borders the disputed Nagorno-Karabakh, could be seen running along a road away from the front line where explosions could be heard in the distance. The mountainous enclave of Nagorno-Karabakh is within Azerbaijan's borders, but populated mainly by ethnic Armenians who reject Azerbaijan's rule. With support from Armenia, they fought a war in the early 1990s as the Soviet Union crumbled to establish de facto control over the territory. The Defense Ministry in the rebel region accused the Azeri armed forces on Tuesday of violating the ceasefire more than 80 times using different types of artillery. And that's it for today's edition of Newsline. Thank you very much for joining us. Our email address is newsline.nbt@gmail.com. So if you do have any suggestions, please write to us. Today we end the program by bringing you some pictures from the Sao Paulo Fashion Week. I'm Chalapan Sanarula. We hope to see you tomorrow again. As for now, Swadee Ka.